As a designer and a maker, I use a lot of tools, and recently it dawned on me that I own a laser cutter. And the amazing thing about a laser cutter is its precision. I thought maybe I could make a few tools using the laser cutter, specifically some old school tools. So I have this ship curve here. It's a sweep, and it's a fantastic tool. I've had it since I was in college, and it's just too long to pop in my backpack and take with me when I need to take it to do demos at school and things like that. So I'd like to make one of these, but a little bit shorter, and modify it just slightly. I also have a series of templates or ellipse guides, and these ellipses guides only go down to 10-degree ellipses, and occasionally I need something that's a little bit smaller than 10 degrees, so I thought maybe we could make a 5-degree ellipse template. And then I have some circle templates, which are great, and I have different ones because they have different sizes on them, but I thought I would make a metric one so that I could have even more size options. So let's make some templates and some guides using the laser cutter.
My name is Eric Strebel. I'm an industrial designer. Welcome to my channel about product design and making. I hope that you like, enjoy, and become a subscriber. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up, and then you hit the bell again, so you get the little parentheses around it. That way you'll be notified every time I have a new video. Don't forget to check out the design and making merch just below the video on the shelf. T-shirts, hoodies, stickers, leggings, and phone cases. The first tool we're going to make is this sweep. I'm going to start that off by scanning the existing sweep. It doesn't quite fit on my scanner, but I only need the front part anyway, and the rest will modify here in Fusion. So let's fire up Fusion, start a sketch, and import the scan that we just did. We're going to scale that up to roughly the size that we want. The scale isn't super important. We can always scale that to the correct size that we want in the software for the laser scanner. I find that when I'm placing down my lines or my splines here to create something like this, less is more, and I really only think I use 6 points, and now it's just a matter of lining up my splines with the existing tool. I'm going to add my name in here, add a Botzen website address, and let's save this out. So we'll pull it into the Lightburn software, which is the laser scanning software here, adjust it, and we'll set the different things for etching and cutting, and we'll go to the laser. You'll see I've actually done a couple of tests just using a bit of cardstock, and I'm going to cut the final one in black styrene, so 1.5 millimeter 16th inch. I also sell that stuff on eBay, not in sheets that are quite that big, but it's an ideal material for something like this because it's durable and flexible and will not break. It won't last forever like the aluminum one will, but for my purposes, this is going to be fantastic. You also see I put some markings in the side. They're not to any particular scale. I'm sanding down the edges, and I'm using a sanding block. So if you've seen my videos before, you know how important that is. If you want to get something square and flat and smooth, you need to use a sanding block. So here's what we started with, and then here is what we ended with. Kind of a nice miniature version of that sweep. All right, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to build these 5-degree ellipse guides, something I've wanted to make and have for a long, long time. Some simple Googling on the interwebs will let you know what the ratio is for whatever degree ellipse that you want. It turns out that 5-degree ellipse is 10%, meaning that the height in this case versus the width it's 10% of that height. So the way I set this up in Fusion is I create a height here in millimeters, and then I take the width and I multiply it times the height times 0.1, giving me the 10%. And that allows me to set up every single ellipse correctly to the size that I want using a simple little formula. It's a fair amount of work, but there's no other way that I could figure out in Fusion to set a matrix other than kind of doing it by hand. So I end up with this wonderful little template like this. The bigger ellipses are more important to me than the smaller ones for this, as bigger ellipses are harder to draw. So we'll save that out and pull that into Lightburn, and we'll pop the settings in here for cutting, and we're going to use PETG for this. 0.5 millimeter clear PETG. And the reason I use PETG is that it's a more durable, flexible material. It's also transparent, so I can see where I'm laying down my ellipses. That's more important here. It also matches the thickness of the existing ellipse set that I have. So PETG doesn't cut exactly as awesome as acrylic does, but it's pretty darn good. And I like the flexibility of the material, so it's relatively well suited for this. So we're going to pull the template out. It's got a protective coating on the front and the back side, and we're going to do it again because it didn't quite cut deep enough on this PETG stuff. It's a little bit tricky. But on the second pass, we're just going to slow down the speed just a hair and increase the power just a touch. And that is going to lead us to a successful template. So here I am doing a little bit of weeding, pulling out these ellipses for my ellipse guide. And I'm going to have lots of options. It's going to fit nicely with my existing set. You can see the first test there on the right. I had a tough time. I couldn't pull out all the ellipses, and I get this really nice ellipse guide. Super happy about that. Have that to add to my set. The first one I did here was just done again out of this cardstock, like a Bristol board, just to sort of test out the scale and the size to see if it was going to hold up and work as a template. Then I refined things a little bit, and you'll see the final one here on the right. This is my finished template, ready to go. Last but not least, we're going to make a nice circle guide, and we're making this metric. I'm doing the bigger ones, I think, at 4 millimeter increments, starting with, I believe, 50 millimeter diameter circle, and I'm going to work my way down from there. And again, this is just to have variation, differences in the existing circle options that I already have. I spent a fair amount of time just kind of arranging things in a kind of an artful way on the canvas, and then I also add in some numbers to indicate the diameter size. Not super important, but it's relatively easy to do. In Fusion, I'll put that again back to Lightburn. We'll cut a little sample here out of some cardstock. I usually do that. It's just a really great way to know what it is you're cutting. And we're going to use the PETG again for the actual final cut. And let's weed that out. And I make 2 here as well. Needed to adjust my cut again. And that gives me 2. Now the reason I had to redo it again was the first template, when I was weeding the circles out, I actually cracked the material, which is not something that you want when you have a guide that you're following with a pencil. So because I cracked the first one pulling the circles out, I made a second one, and that was successful. these are the steps that I took. Again, little cardstock test print, and here's the second one, or the first one I should say, that I cracked, and it didn't like that. It's not acceptable. So I did a second one, and that turned out to be much, much better. Here we go. And that turned out really nice. Super happy with that. So if you're in a position at school, and many universities have laser cutters already, or you have access to one of these, this is a great way to make some tools using a freaking laser. And you may have those tools for the rest of your life. Good luck. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. You can do that by clicking on the icon in the bottom right of the video or below the video. Give it a thumbs up and follow the channel there as well. Hey, and don't forget to follow me on social media. I'm on Facebook sometimes, Twitter usually, and now Instagram. Rock on. Click here to check out some of the other design and making videos that I have that you might enjoy.